tell Jack about the dowry.
Welcome to the Progress Texas Happy Hour.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Progress Texas Happy Hour. Communications Director Chris Mosier here as we continue running down this list of fine Democratic candidates running for important offices all across Texas. A reminder, you've heard this 1,000 times now, but it's worth repeating, that the Texas Democratic Party has made history in a mild way, I would say, by filling every single race all up and down the ballot for the very first time. Neither party has ever really accomplished that, and so it definitely speaks to the enthusiasm, the organization of the state party, and a lot of other things. A lot of momentum and a lot of excitement building as we head towards November. Up next on our list of candidates is Evan Hunt, who again continues a bit of a trend that I feel like I've detected, and I'll have him talk about this on the Democratic side of the ballot this exciting election year. Folks of military background running for office in the Lone Star State. Evan is running in Congressional District 3. This includes the northeastern DFW suburban communities of Allen and McKinney, stretches out into northeast Texas through places like Greenville and out as far as Commerce, Texas. This, of course, is another district drawn for Republican comfort and strength, and the incumbent in this case is Congressman Keith Self, who, of course, is a Republican. Evan Hunt, thanks for joining, man. It's great to see you.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's start with that. I feel like there probably are veterans who run in a regular year. It's not something that's entirely unusual, but you join the likes of Taylor Ramett. We've seen several other candidates, especially up and around the North Texas area, who are coming out of a military background and career and looking to move into politics. I noticed that you got involved in your military adventures coming out of 9/11. There were many people who were inspired to enlist at that time and to get into that.
Yes, sir.
And then, of course, there was also this kind of rise of Islamophobia that rose up during that time. And so let's start, though, with your story. Talk about getting involved in the military and what you've been doing since then. I know that's you're retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel.
Yes, sir.
Tell us, what you've done in the business world and just kind of your personal bio and why you decided to move into politics.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. So, I was a pre-law at University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia. I was studying political science and history, and I was actually focused on World War II and the Greatest Generation. I did my junior year abroad at London School of Economics. Came home, September 11th hit. I had family and friends in the city. I knew people that died in the towers. And I had taken my LSATs, but it felt strange to me at that point in my life to be thinking about going to another 4 years of school when so many of, my generation were signing up to serve.
Right.
And I marched down to the recruiter's office in West Philadelphia. I thought they were going to offer me intel, but they needed aviators.
Yeah.
And I thought flying around in jets sounded fun. So, signed up, went to officer training school right after graduating, went down to Pensacola, spent my first couple of years with the Navy, actually learning how to fly from naval aviators. Mm-hmm. That's where the Strike Fighter program was at the time. And then I graduated from Pensacola, selected B-1 bombers as my, track as a backseater. So at that time, you had to go through electronic warfare training in Randolph Air Force Base in San Antonio. So I got my first step into Texas there, and then I got selected for Dyess Air Force Base in Abilene,
right,
as my first duty station, where I went to fly B-1s. So my son was born in Abilene. I lived in Abilene 5 years, built my first house there, and did multiple combat deployments between 2005 and 2000. Well, in the B-1, 2005 and 2007 combat deployments, right? So
interesting.
At that time, we were gearing up. There was a lot of excitement in the hunt for Osama bin Laden.
Right.
Deployed to Diego Garcia, flew long duration combat missions. Lots of close air support for the Army and the Marines on the ground and coalition troops on the ground. And then eventually moved on to my instructor assignment at Red Flag Nellis Air Force Base. So I got to act as an air defense aggressor. That's where I learned a lot about the air defense world. finally transitioned to the Air National Guard and did some mission planning. Eventually got a command as a maintenance squadron commander, first in the Connecticut National Guard full time, and then transitioned to part time as I decided I want to move into the business world. And I ended up retiring. My last 6 years in the military or so were part time National Guard as a weekend warrior. First in Connecticut, then in California as a deputy group commander, managing the C-130 aircraft maintenance unit out there. In California, it's all the C-130s that drop the flame retardant on fires, right? So we were busy during COVID, busy during the fires, lots of great work. But while I was living that life, I had also transitioned into business development as my sort of function in industry. So I started out a smaller company that was working high energy lasers, and then eventually Raytheon, who was a customer of mine, hired me, and I established a bit of an expertise in the counter drone world. So and finally left Raytheon, did a stint at a startup out of Dallas, and then finally now I'm at a company that makes counter drone radars. And so I have way more business experience than Keith Self, and I have plenty of military experience. I'm very familiar with the Middle East. I did mission planning out of the Combined Air Operations Center in Qatar, so I definitely know what it's like to be out there. And just to answer your question, I mean, I retired in 2022. This feels like an extension of service.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm alone. I feel like although Republicans, veterans tend to be more Republican, that's got more to do with just military budgets and what's good for your personal life, right? In the corporate world, if you're servicing the defense industrial complex. But I think that we've reached a stage in our nation right now where it's a higher calling. It's not really about what's good for business. It's about the oath we took to serve our nation, all enemies, foreign and domestic. And I think a lot of vets feel like the current administration doesn't reflect the American values they signed up to serve for. And I'm certainly in that group.
That's really interesting, and I would ask you to dive into that just a little bit more, maybe. And you're right that the stereotypical view of the military tends to kind of tack towards the right. I think culturally, and that's not to paint with too broad a brush necessarily. But in people or in the circles of folks that who are still in the military game, are you observing a shift that might be happening under the likes of Donald Trump and Greg Abbott? Are people changing their minds? Is this what are you seeing in that front?
I think the military, I mean, in my experience, if I had to wag it, is kind of 60-40 Republican, Democrat. The folks that I know that really align to the Democratic Party that are serving right now are very unhappy and very disturbed by kind of what's going on. I know a lot of the Republicans or the traditional conservatives are also disturbed. I think it's difficult in the military. You can't be too political.
Right.
People, it's kind of like, hey, we all align behind the mission and you're there to serve and take orders.
Ostensibly, it's supposed to be apolitical. It's supposed to be completely,
That's what I was going to say. I think the biggest change is really that they are trying to destroy the nonpartisan nature of federal service, particularly in the military. And that's something I find very disturbing is how overtly politicized the military's become. Now Trump and the administration do rallies where they invite military members and they screen them to make sure they're supportive military members, and then they put them on camera behind them, and they sell merch on base, like red hats and Trump stickers on base. I've never that was never my experience. My experience was it might lean a certain way. They might play some more Fox News than they played CNN, but at the end of the day, it was nonpartisan.
I think that's something that most people of progressive proclivities are definitely observing and noticing and are probably disturbed by. But I wonder if kind of more run-of-the-mill sort of people who may or may not be super tuned in to politics are even noticing such a disturbing trend. I mean, we're talking about the nationalization of and the politicization of our military, which is really, really problematic, especially considering the fact that we, may very, very soon have a different party in charge of the military.
Yeah. And it's actually not just the military, like if you've served in any federal entity, right? If it's the VA or at Department of Homeland Security or, in the National Guard Bureau or in the military, usually the very, very top, by design is political, right? They're a political appointee, and we all serve. But there has been a concerted effort, I believe, under the current administration to push out folks that are not loyal to the administration,
Right.
even below those top level folks. So this translates in the military to like senior generals. Senior generals were always nonpartisan. I think there's been an incredible emphasis placed on loyalty
Yep.
to the Trump administration, which never existed before across multiple organizations. And that tends to sort of seep down into the culture. You know how it goes. People start talking, well, I mean, if I want to get promoted, then I probably just should
That's right.
do X, Y, Z. And
That's right.
people get scared of retribution. So I find it very disturbing. I mean, I think we've got a really proud heritage in this country of nonpartisan service to the Constitution, to whichever administration's in charge. And I was proud to serve under Bush and Obama, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I certainly wasn't overtly political the first time Trump was in charge. I wasn't super happy about it, but I served to the best of my ability.
Right.
Now,
Right.
I feel like things are changing, and I think, you don't really see it unless you've lived that culture and you know. And the last thing I'll say, certainly in the business world, in the defense industrial complex, more so than ever before, there's an emphasis on who you know and what connections you have with people in power in order to win contracts.
Right. Which works largely the same way. That's your future and your fortunes are tied to your politics at that point.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. And so we've digressed a little bit because we want to talk about your campaign, but how much of that informs your decision to run for office? What you're seeing, kind of on a permeating cultural level in the current reality that we're all, living under here. How much of that is part of your calculus in terms of deciding to run for Congress?
Yeah, I mean, that's a part of probably the broader complaint and motivating factor I have for running. I think that this sort of Make America Great Again movement, that side of the Republican Party, is really out of touch with what I consider to be real American values, right? So
Absolutely.
The value, to me, America is a wonderful, incredible place, the best place to live in the world because of our freedom. It's not about uniformity and conformity. It's about the freedom to say what you want to say, love who you want to love, worship how you want to worship, and be who you want to be, and have that, right to pursue happiness. What I see out of the MAGA Republican Party and under the current administration is just an unprecedented emphasis on the politics of division and distraction.
Right.
So they want to divide our country. I mean, Trump just declared that all Democrats were the second greatest threat. Once Iran's dealt with, now they've got to deal with the Democrat Party.
Yeah. Right.
And really, I think they're constantly testing different groups that they can dehumanize, demonize, marginalize in order to get elected. They learned they could get elected by doing that to the undocumented immigrants.
Right.
And now they've moved on to, in my region, in 3rd District, particularly, still immigrant communities, but largely the Muslim American community, and now even in pockets of 3rd District,
right,
the Indian American community.
I was going to ask you about the rise of Islamophobia that we've seen lately. Again, back to your jumping into the military. During the events of 9/11, which of course we saw a giant rise of Islamophobia during that time. And there are different parts around Texas where perhaps the Muslim community is maybe a little less visible, or there's just fewer of them. That has made this really, really blatant shift and unashamed, unabashed sort of shift into outright ugliness towards Muslim people in Texas on the part of Republicans is a little shocking, and it's difficult to understand. Give us a little bit on that, and let's go ahead and bring your opponent into it too. Keith Self is a guy who, Islamophobia never went out of style for that guy.
Yeah.
Talk about that a bit, if you would.
I think that the Islamophobia and the immigrant phobia is part of a broader problem we have with Christian nationalism,
Sure.
which is emanating from Texas, emanating from guys like Keith Self. We are one of the fastest growing districts in the country. We actually have some of the fastest growing towns in the country, like Princeton, which is in district. But if you're familiar with East Plano, McKinney, Allen, these are cities and towns that have gone through incredible rates of transformation.
The massive amounts of people pouring into the state of Texas are generally pouring into places like that, in the metropolitan suburbs, exactly like you're talking about.
Exactly. So they're increasingly diverse.
Right.
So third district now, even though we have a bunch of rural counties to the east, is still about 55% white. And the South Asian community, it's about 11 or 12% South Asian, about 11 to 12% Black, another 16 or 17% Latino. So, I mean, it's very diverse. And what has started to happen is Indian American communities and Muslim American communities have started to spring up, right? We have a couple communities that have been built around mosques, and lovely people. Those communities give back to our cities.
Yeah.
They have great relationships with the city council. They've got great relationships with the police and fire department. They coordinate with churches. I mean, we're talking about peaceful, patriotic people that came to America and just want to worship the way they want to worship.
Yeah.
And what Keith Self has done is he's decided to demonize them.
Right.
He's decided to say that Islam is a threat to real American values that he considers to be aligned. He's one of those that, if he doesn't say it overtly, definitely gives the impression that America is a Christian nation, which, founded on Christian principles, which I kind of disagree with, because that gives the impression that we should be building Christianity into our governance. And
yeah.
I'm a strong believer in the separation between church and state.
Well, as a history student of history, you know full well, and I am as well. I have a history degree too. That the idea that Jefferson and Washington and Madison and those people had any intent of building Christianity into the American experiment is complete poppycock. Completely.
100%. I mean, you're talking about people that were fleeing from tyrannical monarchies, and also what they considered to be tyranny of organized religion. So
right.
But what Keith has done is he even went so far as to co-sponsor this anti-Sharia caucus. And he really has nothing else to campaign on. He's very unpopular around here. He used to talk about fiscal conservatism, but he can't really do that anymore because he voted for the Big Beautiful Bill, which we all know has exploded the deficit.
Right.
He used to talk about Trump a lot more. He used to say Trump was the best president in history. But, now you can see many politicians are distancing themselves just a little bit from Trump because Trump's popularity is so low. So his latest, Keith Self's thing is this anti-Sharia caucus, which sounds silly. Even to Muslim Americans, they're like, Sharia law.
Yeah.
No, there's no such thing as Sharia law. I mean, Muslim Americans think it's a complete joke because per their own religion, they are supposed to follow civil law. And by the way, that's what our Constitution says. So we don't need extra legislation.
Right.
But the Sharia caucus actually has some meat to it because the law they want to pass is HR 5722, which is it's basically an anti-Sharia law. But what it actually says is that they can deport anybody who practices Sharia retroactively. And they can also block people who practice Sharia from coming here. So what this is really about, this is all a continuation of this administration's plan to set the stage to be able to deport anybody that disagrees with them.
Right.
Any voting bloc that they don't like or that they think aligns with Democrats, they're going to deport or threaten to deport because what they want to do is keep us scared. They want to marginalize the marginalized, make sure those communities don't get politically active.
Right.
Don't donate to Democrats, don't vote Democrats, just stay out of it, because that's the only way they can stay in power. I mean,
Sure.
Keith Self can't even have a town hall, a real town hall here anymore without getting screamed out of the room. So now he kind of caters to his very extreme Christian nationalist base, which is a significant portion of third district, but it's definitely not by any means the majority. I mean, maybe it's 20%. So he's got to divide and conquer.
Like I was asking about your colleagues in the military, are you seeing a change of heart out in the district? You're out to, you're knocking on doors, you're meeting people. So I guess a two-part question here. Are you seeing a shift away from that style, that Keith Self kind of MAGA style? And what else from kind of an individual issue sort of standpoint? What are people concerned about? Like, of course, we're all talking about the economy, which of course is affecting every single one of us. What else are you getting from a feedback standpoint from people that you're meeting out in the district?
Yeah. So, I mean, more and more, I'm surprised at how many veterans are out protesting at No Kings. I mean, this No Kings I was in McKinney, I was in Greenville, I was in Farmersville. I didn't even have time to get to all of them. And there were tons of veterans out, Vietnam veterans, Iraq and Afghanistan veterans. And I find that to be a shift, right? Because it takes a lot, I think, for military vets to get politically active. And I read something funny the other day, but like, imagine how many people you have to make upset if you've got unprecedented protests, right? This is what we're dealing with. Like, I think 8 million people protested.
Yeah. The new record.
And really, it's really about executive overreach. So that is the core of a lot of concern. But I find winning issues for the Democratic Party in this district first I talk about healthcare. Mm-hmm. So healthcare is a colossal failure of the Republican Party. They had tons of time while they were working the big, beautiful bill to try to come up with a better option. Instead, they chose to just blow up our deficit to increase the already bloated defense budget, turn ICE into an abomination, right? And then give the hyper-rich permanent tax breaks. And instead, then they started talking about pulling the rug out from everybody with the ACA. Mm-hmm. So 10% of third district is relying on those ACA subsidies. They're going to see their healthcare costs go through the roof. And we all talk about affordability. It's like, oh, well, the price of gas is $5, not $3. All that matters. But when your medical insurance goes up by $1,000 a month, that is a real problem for a lot of Americans.
For almost
and sometimes it's more than $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
And we all know the problems with healthcare. We know, you lose your job, you lose your healthcare. Serious problem. That's what the ACA tried to solve. Right. Preconditions. The ACA tried to solve that as well. So I think they should have spent all the time they spent putting together the big, beautiful bill, working on a better alternative to the healthcare system. And that could be Medicare for all. It could be something else. Mark Cuban is doing incredible work in the healthcare industry, merging public and private interests and getting middlemen out of the way. I think Elizabeth Warren just proposed a new healthcare reform bill. So all this administration is promised is a concept of a plan,
right?
And it's completely weak sauce. So healthcare is a winning issue. Immigration reform, big issue. So I think strong borders are a bipartisan issue now. Everybody agrees. Strong borders. Everybody agrees. If you're a violent, undocumented immigrant, you should be deported. That's not an issue. But we need to get back to treating people with dignity and respect.
Right.
We don't need federal masked agents cosplaying as special ops soldiers in our streets and zip tying children and detaining kids, at an hourly or daily rate, like building this business of detainment and deportation. I think it turns off a lot of Americans, and it's certainly out of sync with our rich immigrant heritage. So I talk about immigration reform. I would like to take all that money that we gave to DHS and let cops catch criminals. All these ICE raids are just completely performative.
Agreed. And based on quotas and all that, it's it's ridiculous.
Yeah. ICE has lost the public trust. So there needs to be sort of a rebuild from the ground up.
Yeah. Not to backtrack too much, but there's talk on our side that this new emphasis on hating on Muslim people may be because at the top they've detected that hating on immigrants is no longer playing. That people aren't buying that anymore, and so now we need to move to a trusty old enemy from back in the 9/11 era. So that there could be some of that.
That's exactly what it is. I mean, MAGA Republicans like Keith Self learned they could get elected by hating on a group of people.
Right. Right.
And I think that people are a little tired of the hating on illegal immigrants. And frankly, that discussion's moved on now. Now they're hating on immigrants. So Keith Self he'll say that we should pause all immigration, which is the most un-American statement I've ever heard.
Yes.
And then they'll also lean into remigration. People don't know what remigration means, but remigration used to be a far right-wing sort of crazy term, which meant let's just deport all the people that came here recently.
Right.
But you'll hear DHS say remigration. You'll hear Stephen Miller say remigration. I bet Keith Self said it, but he did say pause migration.
Well, we've heard Beau French at CPAC talk about deporting 100 million Americans, which would definitely qualify for what you're talking about there.
Yeah, their answer to everything is, oh, well, if we just deport people, everything will be fine.
Yeah.
And what's been proven to be true is they've deported a bunch of immigrants and nothing's fine, right? Our costs keep going up.
Right.
We're now embroiled in another conflict in the Middle East. Healthcare prices are going to explode. Housing prices, jobs market's down. Like you could just go on and on. Nothing is better in our country right now, despite all this immigration enforcement.
Well, we're going to run out of time soon here. Let's get back to the campaign in particular.
Yeah.
You're in a district where you are going to have to win over some moderate Republicans and some centrists and some independents.
Yes.
What's a quick couple minutes worth of messages to people who you're trying to coax over from the other side?
Yeah. So 3rd District hasn't been represented by Democrats since 1968. Mm-hmm. We are a bastion of the sort of conservative Republican Party. And I always tell people that this Republican Party is nothing like the Republican Party of 10 years ago. So Trump has eaten out the conservative heart of the Republican Party. This isn't a party that favors public schools. It's not a party that favors small local governance. It's not a party that favors fiscal conservatism. So I often say I'm more conservative than MAGA because I actually favor a lot of local governance. I favor public schools. I favor, working toward a balanced budget. I think we should spend within our means. I definitely don't favor executive overreach like we have now. I want 3 co-equal branches of government and the system of checks and balances. And that combined with a focus on, well, what issues are we talking about? We're talking about healthcare, immigration, public schools, no foreign wars. That really resonates with a lot of disaffected Republicans. I've had a lot of folks come tell me that they voted for me for the first time. It's the first time they voted for a Democrat since 1980. Multiple people said that. I've got volunteers on my campaign that are former Republicans or they're devout Christians that are so upset by how the Republican Party has warped their vision of Christianity.
Sure.
So, look, I think having James Salarico at the top of our ticket and being able to speak so eloquently on that topic is helpful. I think that he's attracting a lot of former or disaffected Republicans. I think that things are so bad right now. It's like 30% Republican, 30% Democrat, 30% independent, right? The independents usually, they're not very involved. They could vote both ways. They tend to vote with their pocketbook. So we're going to see a shift to the Democratic Party. The question is just how much of that blue wave we can get in a Republican bastion that used to be. It's not really anymore, but here in 3rd District. And it's so grassroots here. I can't tell you. It's like there's no involvement with the DNC. The Texas Democratic Party, Kendall Scudder. I'm like, Kendall, what do you need from me? He's like, I just need you to fight and win. Just go do it.
Yeah.
And I'm meeting one person at a time for coffee. Anybody that asks, I go meet them. People say, how can we help your campaign? We want to volunteer. I say, have 5 people over in your living room. Let's talk. And I try to get through to them because most of them don't realize how bad Keith Self is. It's not just that he's dividing our community. It's also that he's just completely wasting our taxpayer dollars because he doesn't actually try to pass real legislation. He doesn't actually try to bring dollars back to our district, the fastest growing district in the country, one of them. He's just out there, having culture war issues and trying to legislate on things that the Constitution already blocks.
Right.
So it's working, Chris. It's working, right? Like I feel it. We've got major energy, but we got a long way to go.
So this has been a terrific talk, Evan. Real quick, this is a big district geographically. There's bound to be places in this district that you had not traveled before you embarked on this adventure. Pick out one interesting place where you've met some interesting people out in District 3 that you would like to give a shout out to real quick.
Yeah. So just a week and a half ago, I drove 2.5 hours out east to Dangerfield, Texas, outside of Mount Pleasant. Maudie Peters is the Morris County chair out there, and she organized 20, 30 people in a small church, and we had a lovely evening talking about politics, and people are fired up and ready to get organized, and they were planning their first No Kings rally.
Wow.
So, coming from Collin County, where there's so much going on, it's really heartwarming to drive way out east into these rural communities that have been forgotten about by this administration.
Yes.
And see them getting fired up and ready to go.
I love that. Texas is huge. You drive for 30 minutes in any direction in Texas, you're going to find a new adventure and new people to talk to. And so, in a way that, you're doing great and fun work, getting to get out there and, meet new people.
I love it. I love
folks.
Yeah. We're 7 counties now, 1 million people.
Yeah.
80% of the votes in Collin County, 10% in Hunt County, and another 10% are across those 5 other counties. And I love going out east. I mean, you hit Sulphur Springs and the Hopkins County Democrats. You hit Mount Pleasant, and out there it's like Franklin, Morris, Titus, Delta. Everybody deserves a voice. Everybody deserves to be represented, feel represented. And almost nobody I meet feels represented at all, even here in Collin County, by Keith Self. So.
Right. Well, great talk. Thanks so much for the time, Evan, and be safe out on the trail, and we'll follow your adventures and look forward to seeing what happens.
Thank you so much, Chris. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Evan Hunt running for Congressional District 3. That is the Progress Texas Happy Hour. We will continue our adventures with candidates and office holders and thought leaders and everybody else as we move forward towards the election in November. All about us at progresstexas.org.